Today I'm turning boards from this old fence panel into a folding table I can put by the chairs in my backyard fire pit. I'll keep these nails too because I'm a cheapskate, and they've done a great job holding this fence together, so they should work fine for the table. Consider that a DIY pro tip. Up next, I'll set up my table saw and rip these boards down to the sizes I need. Then I'll cut them to length. Measure, mark, and cut with surgeon-like precision, or at least as close as I can without having to buy new wood. Here's the breakdown of what I'll need. 4 boards at 1.5 inches by 27 inches, 4 boards at 1.5 inches by 16 inches, 2 at 2 inches by 20 inches, and 6 at 3 inches by 20 inches. Now I'll line up the 1/2 inch boards like this. Short, long, long, short, short, long, long, short. Yes, it's an important part of making this thing unfold later. Trust me, I've already messed this up a few times. I'm going to secure each short board to its neighboring long board with blue painter's tape. It's kind of the temporary duct tape of woodworking. Cheap, disposable, and surprisingly reliable, unlike so many other things in life. Taping these boards together ensures an even hole through both boards when I drill a hole in one end. Okay, time to give these boards some curves. I'm going to use this hole saw bit as a pattern since it's the same width as the boards. I'll trace the curve onto the end of the taped boards and cut them with a scroll saw, though a jigsaw will also work. Rounding off the ends of these boards allows the tabletop to fold and unfold smoothly. I've got an oscillating belt sander to smooth out those cuts, which is better than just rubbing it on my jeans and hoping for the best. I also could have hand sanded. Now I'll measure and mark the center of the rounded ends for the spot I'll drill holes through, and use a center punch to help in positioning the bit when I start to drill. Then grab my 5/8 Forstner bit to match the 5/8 inch dowels and drill straight through. I could also use a hand drill as long as I take it slow and keep it straight. No one wants crooked holes. Here you can see how the tape kept the hole nice and straight. Next, I'll mark a line at 14.5 inches on the long boards and use a center finder to locate the exact middle. I 3D printed this one. The dowel in this hole allows the legs to open and close when folding. After I made the marks, I again used a center punch to help with drilling. At this point, I'm going to mark an X on the side of each taped board set. It's like a cheat code for reassembly later. These X's ensure the holes on the rounded ends are aligned even if they were drilled slightly off center. Now I'll untape the boards, drill them all, and move on. After I've got all the holes drilled, I'll cut my 5/8 inch dowel to length. 1 long at 14.5 inches and 4 short ones at 1.5 inches. Now I'll match up the X's on the boards then realign in the magical short, long, long, short pattern. I'm going to mark 35-degree angles on the square ends of the long boards. When marking the angles, it's important to note that the angle on the outside boards points up and the angle on the inside boards points down. These will be the feet of the table. I'll cut them with a handsaw, and I'm assuming you know how to use a handsaw safely. It's pretty simple. Make sure the saw isn't on top of your fingers before you start to cut. When I'm done, the order should be angle up, angle down, angle down, angle up. Got it? This is crucial. Well, what do you know? I've drilled one of these holes in the wrong place. No big deal. I'll just drill a new hole in the right place and glue a dowel in the bad hole to plug it up. Everyone makes mistakes in woodworking, so it's a good idea to learn how to fix them or at least hide them. Okay, time to start assembly. I've got my boards matched up with the X's, lined up short, long, long, short, and the angles up, down, down, up. The first thing I'll do is insert the long dowel through the holes in the rounded end of the middle 4 boards. After sliding the short boards towards the center, I glue the dowel into the holes in the long boards, keeping the end of the dowel flush with the edge of the board and keeping the X's lined up. Next, I'll glue short dowels into the far outside short boards with the dowel sticking out towards the long board beside it, again making sure the X's are aligned. And oh, I made another mistake here. This board is upside down. Luckily, I caught it before the glue dried. There, see, I got that one right. Learning from my mistakes. Keeping the X's aligned keeps the boards and holes aligned and everything flush, straight, and even. Now I'll glue the short dowels into the center holes on the long inside boards, with them sticking out towards the long board beside. This is how it needs to look and where the glue goes. I'll let this dry overnight. Patience is key here unless you enjoy redoing things that fall apart. After the glue is dried, I'll insert the short dowels into the holes of the boards beside them and cut off any extra dowel that is sticking out so all the boards can rest tight against each other. Looking back now, I suppose I could have cut the short dowels a little bit shorter to start with and avoided this step. With all the dowels cut flush, I'll insert them into their neighboring hole and press all the boards together on both sides. I'll use a square and/or measure to get everything as square as possible. Next, lay the 3-inch boards on one side for the tabletop. Align the first board with the short boards underneath it, and measure the overhang on each side to get it as centered as possible. Then I'll put the 2-inch wide leg brace board in place an inch or two away from the 3-inch board. Through trial and error, I have realized that it's very important to attach these boards to the correct boards below. The trick is to attach the leg brace into the long boards that are point up and attach the tabletop into the short board right beside it. So leg brace into long boards, tabletop into short boards. Continue until 3 of the 3-inch boards are attached on this side. Okay, now flip the assembly over and do the same for the other side. Brace attached into the long board, point up. And tabletop into the short boards beside. I'm reusing the nails on this table, but 1-inch wood screws would also work and are much easier to remove when you realize you've attached to the wrong spot. Once everything is nailed or screwed together, it'll look something like this. And now the moment of truth. Lift the tabletop pieces and slide them together. Boom, folding table. To store it, just reverse the process. Bonus, the long dowel doubles as a handle for easy carrying. I made 4 of these for my backyard, and they've held everything from drinks and snacks to questionable decisions. I cut a curve into the edge of a few of my tables, and I think it looks better than just square. My fire pit is pretty rustic, but this table could be fancier if the boards were sanded and stained, and perhaps using a router to add a chamfer to the edges of all the boards. Cedar fence boards could also be used for construction of this handy little table and sanded and stained. I'm sure that'd be real pretty, but for now these will work great to hold my beer. If you enjoyed this build or you just like sarcastic commentary, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Now go forth and make your own folding table. Or don't. It's your life. See you next time.